even on both of them, where the steps are loss of this in the slow step and loss of hydrogen or deuterium in the fast step. What do you think? Will the rate be same or different? Almost same. Now don't be so diplomatic and say what you would be expecting. Same. Obviously, if you know that it's even being carried out, slow step would be loss of the halogen. Fast step would make either hydrogen or deuterium go. So because the bond is broken in the fast step, you would expect the rate to be similar. You would expect the rate to be similar, and if the rates are similar, you would predict it's E1 and not E2. It's E1 and not E2. Fair enough? Now let me tell you, even in E1, now this would be the case, in E2, out of primary isotopic effect, even in E1, where this would lose Br minus in the slow step, generating a carbocation, even in E2, this R1 would be slightly more than R2. This R1 would be a little more than R2. This R1 would be slightly more than R2. We want to take it down that it's slightly more than R2. Now this would be called secondary isotopic effect. This would be called secondary isotopic effect. And who would want to tell me this? Why is the rate different this time, although marginally?
The reactants have a little more energy than, the product has a little more energy than the soil when it is hydrogen. Because it's CD bond, there are 3 CD bonds. Maybe marginally because of that reason.
Okay. Anyone else?
CH will break easily because of less bond.
CH will break?
Easily because of less bond.
But that's the fast step now. Anyone else?
Sir, we would expect this to be stabilized by hyperconjugation.
Amazing. Very true. In E2, you straight away conclude that whether the bond is broken in the slow step or not. In E1, after the slow step, the carbocation is formed. The carbocation is formed. So, in the slow step, the bond is not broken. But as far as the slow step is concerned, you will want the product to be more stable now. And how is this product stable? This product is stable by hyperconjugation. The product is stable by hyperconjugation. Now, a bond which is more difficult to dissociate will always be more difficult to hyperconjugate. I repeat, a bond which is more difficult to dissociate will always be less or will always be more reluctant to show hyperconjugation. Ideally, in E1, you would expect the two rates to be similar. You would expect the two rates to be similar because the concerned bond involving the concerned atom or its isotope is broken in the fast step. Still, you see that there is a little difference in the rates, although not as significant as in E2. You'll know that in E1, in the slow step, a carbocation is formed, and you'll think about the stability of the carbocation. And for stability of carbocation, you want hyperconjugation. And CH bonds, because of their lower bond energies, will also be more hyperconjugative than CD bonds. CH bonds, very true, because of lesser bond energy, will be even more hyperconjugative. So although it's broken in the fast step, if you talk about the stability of carbocation formed by hyperconjugation, then stabilization of this carbocation with CH3 around would be more than stabilization of the carbocation with CD3 around. Now, if there is a significant difference in the rate of the reaction because the bond being directly broken in the slow step or directly responsible in the slow step, you call it primary isotopic effect with a very significant and expected difference in rate. And if that bond is indirectly affected to the slow step, I repeat, if this bond carbon deuterium or carbon hydrogen is indirectly related to the slow step, in the sense it's not directly broken in the slow step, it will have a marginal difference in the rate of the reaction. We call it secondary isotopic effect. We'll get back to more discussions of primary and secondary isotopic effect maybe once we do a little bit more of aromatic reactions. Okay? But this is what is primary and secondary isotopic effect for the time being. Okay? Again, a wonderful tool to predict whether the reaction is even or E2 in this case. Whether the reaction is even or E2 in this case. All of you understand this? Maybe when we meet next, I'll present you a very classical example of a question based on these basic ideas. It was set in IIT 1998, maybe, or I don't recall. There was a very similar case in even 2008 or 2009. You'll see a very nice matrix match built around all of these ideas. And given an opportunity, I would share it with you in the next seat which we see. But this is fine with you. This is what isotopic effect. This is how isotopic effect would help you. Working with an isotope, if there is a straightaway difference in the rate, you'll know that bond has been broken in the slow step. You'll run after that mechanism. At times, even if it's not broken in the slow step, the rates might differ. There could be indirect linkage of that bond with the slow step. That's called secondary isotopic effect. Let's move on then. Let's move on. You're comfortable till this point? Now, suppose there is a situation like this, where you have a particular halide, we are generally used to this ethoxide in ethanol, yes or no? We are generally used to this ethoxide in ethanol. And what do we do? Suppose there is a beta hydrogen I want to extract. I'll say that the ethoxide is taking out this hydrogen, this coming down, this going out. Fine. Okay? Looks like a one-step process. Looks like a one-step process. Only step, slower step involving ethoxide. Then the rate of the reaction should be rate is equal to K obviously the molecule RL bearing the leaving group and ETO minus E2 का जैसा रेट लॉ एक्सप्रेशन आएगा, दोनों चेंज करो, रेट चेंज होगा, दोनों के साथ ऑर्डर 1 मैकेनिज्म इज बाई मॉलिक्यूलर और E2 एलिमिनेशन. A situation where both the base, say a situation where both the base and the solvent is same. A situation where both the base and the solvent is same. I repeat, maybe instead of ethoxide, ethanol only, no ethoxide. Ethoxide is acting as the base. It can act as a base because even if it is ETOH, realize, even if it is ETOH, it can still interact with the hydrogen. Even as ETOH, it can interact with the hydrogen, help in the ejection of hydrogen. So I repeat, suppose both the base and the solvent are same. Both the base and the solvent are same. Now do you think you'll get a rate law expression like this, which is RL and ETOH? No? Why?
Because it is making very.
Yes, the solvent will always be in excess. This is why you always disregard water in the kinetics. The solvent would be in excess. अरे how do you establish a rate law expression? ये आता कहाँ से है? याद करो केमिकल काइनेटिक्स का जो टेबल था, चेंज करते थे, रेट में फर्क देखते थे. अब ये जब सॉल्वेंट ही है तो इसका कंसेंट्रेशन कैसे चेंज करोगे? If you are using this as a solvent only and expecting elimination reaction, then how will you change the concentration of this? Because this is the solvent in excess. So even if it's E2, even if it's there in the rate law expression, because it's the solvent, because it's in excess, it will never find its place in the rate law expression, and the rate kinetics would suggest even every time. The rate kinetics would suggest even every time. So this time, how do you, I hope all of you are understanding this. If the solvent and the base are same, even if the base is involved in this flow or the only step of E2, the rate kinetics would suggest E1 because ETOH would have been in excess and its concentration change is impractical. So how do you differentiate? How do you prove whether it's E1 or E2 this time?
See if we can separate the carbocation intermediate. We can see that whether intermediate is or not.
Fine. Or there might be a case where this can undergo rearrangement. We'll see whether a rearrangement is occurring or not. Whenever there is a rearrangement, you confirm it's involving a carbocation. I guess you realize what we were doing with this particular stuff, SNI. In SNI, from the cyclic mechanism, we shifted to generation of Gigan ions. We eventually had to give positive negative charge to carbon, or we had to talk of those intimate ion pairs because we had to explain a molecular rearrangement. So whenever there is a molecular rearrangement, you know it's E1. Do you want me to show some molecular rearrangements to you? Do you want me to do again some hydride shift and methyl shift and ring expansion? Still I'll do some for you, and please take this down. One more thing, I mean, at my end, I'll not need further practice, so at your end, you should be leaving some space and explaining how all of this is achieved. This is what you have to explain, an elimination like this involving a methyl shift. And as I said, always try to draw the independent steps, individual steps. Now when you see this, there are no confusion. There is no confusion. Certainly a carbocation must have been formed, triggering a methyl shift, a positive here, loss of hydrogen, more stable alkene formed. Draw this. I tell you it's E1. Give me the product. Take your time. I tell you it's E1. The mechanism is E1, generating a carbocation. Try to draw me the product. Fine.